5, 4,
3, 2, 1.
And let's be heard. Good afternoon, everyone. The telephone lines are open. Remember to call in New Jersey, 201-489-WABC. If you're calling from anywhere else, 212-563-WABC. In a program brought to you, I'm distracted here. What's going on over there? In the belief what? Program dedicated to the free and open exchange of ideas and of opinions. And what is on your mind this afternoon? I'll tell you what had me distracted. 322 shows to go. That's what the crowd said. And it's exhilarating to think it's down to that number. Absolutely exhilarating. And tomorrow they'll be saying, if they come around again, 321. Just absolutely heartening. Of course, you know that I'm possibly jesting, don't you? Ladies and gentlemen, I trust that you have been keeping abreast of the savagery that has been going on in New York City. Of course, front page news, except if you read the New York Times, where they either totally eliminate such stories or bury them deep within the pages of the newspaper. This enclave of invaders from the Dominican Republic, this enclave of ingrates who want to drag the United States down to third world status, this enclave of bums throwing Molotov cocktails at firefighters, and I'm surprised at how relatively unperturbed the guy who was acting in lieu of a mayor seems to be. But then, of course, if it were the other way around, if some of those wretched illegal scum had been injured, burned, attacked, then, of course, the putrescence in lieu of a mayor would be very upset. And I used a term a moment ago indicating that maybe the New York Times is not really, does not really see fit to give this story the prominence it deserves. But wait a minute. Speaking of the New York Times, over the weekend, they did a report based on many interviews and studies done by two of their reporters concerning teenagers. Now, you know, a lot of politicians and a lot of gadflies, a lot of, shall we say, pretenders, love to talk about our greatest natural resource, the young people. And they like to talk about the future of this country in the hands of the young people. Well, you don't have to be Charles Proteus Steinmetz or Albert Einstein or Leonardo da Vinci to figure out that the teenagers of today will be the adults of tomorrow. But what about the teenagers of today? Ever increasingly, they are becoming more adept at third world living conditions and less capable of maintaining the standards that at one time prevailed in the United States of America. And as the report says, for some, the rituals of abuse replace youthful courtship. May I go over that again? For some, the rituals of abuse replace youthful courtship. And they quote a youth by the name of James Fauntleroy. Where do they get those names? Fauntleroy. He's 15. He says the teenagers in his circle either don't date or don't admit to it. Now, let me quote him directly as reported by Melinda Henneberger. He says, nobody wants a relationship except the girls. By the way, he was speaking on a park bench in downtown Stamford, Connecticut, another one of our communities, which at one time was a nice town, but now would probably be more suitable for the heart of Lesotho. Anyway, he said, the guys don't want to look soft to their friends. That fear and the desire of boys to demonstrate their manhood by abusing or showing disrespect to girls was repeated time and again in more than 50 interviews with teenagers across the New York City region last week, after a series of reported sexual assaults by groups of teenagers in a Bronx swimming pool, a Montclair, New Jersey stairwell, and a Yonkers playground. And after the story was published, another swimming pool degradation has occurred. Now, most of the boys interviewed, though not all, described how they gain popularity by yelling explicit propositions or fondling girls who pass by, competing to see who shows the most flair and audacity in talking trash. Now, there's a phrase, talking trash. Who uses that phrase? Where did that phrase come from? It's not a phrase that is known in my circles or in the circles of most of the people I encounter. Where does it come? What do they mean? Talking trash. That is another legacy from the worst elements of the so-called minority community. Talking trash. But what saddens me is not that they want to use that terminology, that ridiculous lexicon, but that the total community will pick it up and will absorb it. I remember years ago when somebody would say, well, we want to find out what's going on. Now they say, we want to find out what's going down. Where did that come from? You know where it came from, same as I do. From the crowd that discovered the word relevant, except for years they've been mispronouncing it relevant. Just ask them and they'll tell you. What is impossible to quantify, though, about the attitudes and alienation expressed by the, get a load of these euphemisms, the inner city youth, is what sociologists and psychologists are concerned about, the apparent increase of abuse as a group activity. Now, the reason I bring this out is with the focus of attention on what happens to these girls in public swimming pools, it shouldn't really surprise anybody who has read this report as I have. Not to excuse it, not to dismiss it, but to alert you. And they have another bit of lingo. They say, you diss somebody. You diss somebody. That means you show, as they like to say, disrespect. You see, we don't put on the consonant T. It would take too much effort to say disrespect. So you say disrespect. At any rate, it's just symptomatic of the slipping and sliding toward third worldism. For example, somebody by the name of AFR, that's his first name, Afra James, of Bogota, New Jersey, said proudly, I'm the highest there is in respect for women. And then he rationalized the psychology of group assaults. Now get a load of this. You know this. Now, this bum is 18 years old. But you want to know where he's coming from? You want to know what he's all about? You want to know why he and his kind are so loathsome? You want to know why there isn't much of a future for this country? He says, quote, "It's nature. Look at a female dog and a male dog. It's the same thing. You see 20 male dogs on a female dog. It's the male nature, in a way." Now, here's a bum. Here's an animal. Here's an animal who identifies more with a dog than with a human being. Maybe it's because he doesn't know who his father is, or where his father is, or if indeed he was the progeny of a father. Maybe his father is a German Shepherd. That's why I don't. People say, "Well, why are you so tenebrous about the future of this country?" Well, that's why. That's why. Why, why should anybody find it difficult to understand? All right, this portion brought to you by Harrah's.
As long as they make me feel
On
comfortable.
the line on WABC from New York. Yes, hello, Michael.
Hi, Bob. I was very interested this morning to hear New York Post writer Timothy McDara interviewed by Curtis Lewa, in which McDara said that he had heard information from Secret Servicemen that actress Sharon Stone was taken aboard the presidential plane a few weeks ago when they had that scandalous thing where Clinton delayed the air traffic for about an hour and a half in the Los Angeles area when he got that haircut. But at that time, according to what Post writer McDara said from the Secret Service reporters, that actress Sharon Stone was taken aboard the plane to have a rendezvous with President Clinton, a la Marilyn Monroe, vis-a-vis Jack Kennedy. And, of course, nobody should be surprised with Slick Willie in these shenanigans. But I also wanted to add one other thing, that I was reading an article about Clinton by Mickey Kaus a few days ago in the New York Post, in which Kaus says that Clinton really has or is about to have the conservative Republicans over a barrel by his preempting virtually all the issues and appearing to take center stage, and that really Clinton will be up, have things his way, and the Republicans will find it very hard to best Clinton. And I'd like to ask you how you feel about this, and also, of course, about the Sharon Stone possible escapade.
Yeah, well, McDara doesn't have any hard evidence. If he did, I would be happy to tell you that he did. I've heard that rumor, but we can't seem to pin it down. That's number one. Number two, Mickey Kaus is entitled to fill his column with whatever he feels is important to fill it with, and that's just filling a column. It's much too. First of all, he's basing his assumptions. He's basing his conclusion on assumptions.
Yes.
Which is like building a castle out of sand. So I see nothing to even discuss in the Mickey Kaus column.
Right. I just would like to add one other thing. I think since Clinton, I should say Slick Willie, is of such despicable character. I mean, this is virtual second nature to him, that I think somewhere along the line in the next few months, or certainly within the next year or two, he's going to trip himself up, whether he likes it or not. And I think he will really get himself in a lot more trouble and make a lot of mistakes, even though he may be an intelligent man.
All right, I thank you very much. I mean, how analytical do we have to get, Michael, for heaven's sake? Matt, you're on WABC. Hello.
Hi, Bob. Pleasure to talk to you. The reason I'm calling is this. It's about the English language and the word disrespect. I was just wondering, if I'm wrong, that the word disrespect is an adverb. Is that true? Modifies a verb? You don't,
It depends on how it's used.
because I've seen all of a sudden the word disrespect. He disrespected that one. She disrespected him. I even saw Anna Quinlan.
Well, Anna Quinlan, of course, is... hello?
Yeah, hello.
What kind of phone are you using?
Well, a very faulty one right now from my home.
Okay, thank you. WABC, let's say hello to Rob. Hello, Rob. Are you there, Rob? Rob? All right, let's try Kenny. Hello, Kenny.
Hi, good afternoon, Bob. I just, real quick, I want to add another word to that list. It's part ignorance, maybe mostly ignorance, and part legacy. Here's the word. Supposedly. Did you ever hear that one instead of supposedly?
How are they pronouncing it now?
Supposedly, with a V like Victor. Some one of these days, they will get it right. I hear that one very often.
Well, we'll have to axe them.
That's right.
Right.
Bye.
Glenn, what's on your mind on WABC?
Bob Grant, hi. I love you in a heterosexual way, of course, and I have 3 questions.
How could you love me in a heterosexual way if you're a member of the same sex?
Well, I'm just trying to say that it's a non-sexual manner in which I love you.
Well, you didn't even... all right.
I adore you, in other words. You do a wonderful program. And I have 3 quick questions.
I'm going to kiss my hand in another minute. Yes, go ahead.
Bear with me. I don't know what the Mario message means. Could you translate it for me to English?
I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop doing the message to Mario because I'm getting sick and tired of people asking for a translation. It means a worthless person.
Okay. And until recently, I didn't realize that you had wanted to go to do a network program, and I'm really shocked that somebody would say to you that you're too outspoken to go on the network. Do you know? Could you expound upon that?
No. What is there to expound? Except that's what I've been told.
Well, would it help to write letters?
No.
No. Well, I think that you do a much better program than any of the network guys, G. Gornality or Rush, or whomever. You're just much more suited to broadcasting. And finally, I do a public radio show, and this is a long shot, but I was wondering if you would ever possibly be able to be a guest of mine on my show by either telephone or in whatever manner.
I doubt it.
Could be done. Wouldn't be possible at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thanks very much.
It's time to have another interruption. Hello. Most of you have put away all your heavy winter clothing. You've restocked your closets with spring and summer clothing. I'm sure most of you have also tried on a few of those outfits. You've asked yourself, are these my clothes? Chances are you put on a few pounds since last spring, and the people at Nutrisystem Weight Loss Centers want to help. Why, they know that even if you've gained only 5 pounds, that's enough to take those, stomach muscles and try to, make it seem like they could, they just don't work. They're a little tighter, that skirt a little snugger, and your favorite bathing suit, well, we won't even mention that. What is Nutrisystem? Well, Nutrisystem is 3 delicious meals a day, like pizza, hearty beef stew, fettuccine alfredo. It's desserts and snacks every day. It's one-on-one counseling. It's the easiest way to lose weight. It's business as usual at your local Nutrisystem franchise-owned center, where they're excited to offer the popular 3 weeks for $19 special. That's right. You get 3 weeks of service for $19, plus the cost of meals at participating centers. Call toll-free 1-800-238-SLIM. 1-800-238-SLIM. There are over 50 franchise-owned centers located throughout New Jersey, Westchester, and Fairfield County. Back to our telephones. And Don, what's on your mind this afternoon?
Bob, over the weekend, I had to read the New York Times. I was looking for real estate, industrial. I saw in one of the sections there, they had a picture of an old man in Fire Island. And under the caption in the Times, what it said proudly was, this was so-and-so and his adopted son and lover. This is pedophilia the New York Times is now pushing on the public. This paper is a disgusting rag. Can you imagine this man was sitting there proudly with his son, his adopted son and lover? And the New York Times put the picture there as a tourist picture. Another article I read in the Times, and the editorial page said swastika in Vermont. This two Jewish lesbians come up to this town in Vermont. They live there part-time. It's not good enough for them to live full-time. They have to live the other half-time in Brooklyn, that beautiful place. They go to Vermont. Someone paints a swastika. Basically, they don't want to see two lesbians from Brooklyn there. And I'm Jewish, and that would get me mad if they came up there. And the paper is so disgusting that it's beyond words at this point. It's becoming the Village Voice. It's published by this little creep, Salzberger. These people are trying to ruin this country, the society. They are completely and totally against everything the family is. The New York Times is nothing but a rag. It should be boycotted more than Denny's, in my opinion.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Don, who is feeling very strongly about the issue, and I can't say as I blame him. Matter of fact, I don't blame him. Bob, you're on WABC. What's on your mind?
Hi, Bob. I was just listening to your opening monologue, and I wanted to. I agreed with most of what you said. I just think it's unfair to compare this behavior in the pool to dogs. I think it's actually a lot lower than dogs. I mean, look at dogs. I mean, at least they, court before they mate, and you don't see unwanted sexual behavior. So to compare it to dogs, I think it's way lower. As a matter of fact, any animal behavior, it's way lower because animals don't rape. So,
on WABC, let's say hello to Mark. Hello, Mark.
Yes, Bob. Good afternoon. You mentioned disrespect. These are the same. I don't know what to call them. It's be disrespectful to animals to call them animals, but these are the same beings that disrespect everyone else as a way of life. And if you look at them cross-eyed, or if you merely look at them, or if you don't give them any of your property, they think they own everything you have, they'll pull out a gun and shoot you.
That's
Wonderful
right.
people. And there are people who think that this is the future of society. Among them, I believe, the mayor of New York and people like Al Sharpton. It's not much to look forward to. And they want to bring everyone else down to that level. That's the frightening thing.
Well, that's it. That's the whole... That's what the whole, quote, civil rights movement, unquote, has become. Let's drag everybody down to our level. That's what it is. Okay, thank you.
Bob.
All right, Frank, what's on your mind?
Bob, I would like to know your favorite charity because I would like to make a contribution to it for the way you spoke about Denny's. I was too chicken to talk out about it, but I certainly agree with your theory on it.
Well, you could try the Leukemia Society of America.
Leukemia Society, you got it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Cosmo, you're on WABC. Hello.
Yes. Hello, Bob?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've been reading in the papers there the last few weeks about George Steinbrenner of the Yankees, threatening to take the Yankees to some other state or some other city, either Jersey or Connecticut or whatnot. It seems to me, I remember way back when, I think it was in the late 60s, or the early 1970s, when he was threatening the same things, to move the stadium or move the Yankees over to Jersey because the stadium was run down. And I think it was Mayor Lindsay who made some kind of a pact that the city would bankroll the refurbishing and redoing over again of $60 million or $80 million of the Yankee Stadium if he would only stay here and keep all these jobs for these people and keep the town in New York and everything. And I think the deal was a done deal, and I don't think Steinbrenner had to pay anything to have the Yankee Stadium done over with new seats and all kinds of new attachments that cost, I think it was $60 or $80 million. And I believe the city taxpayers like me paid for that. I think Lindsay did it on the house.
All right, well, it wasn't only Lindsay, you're right. It started with the Tower of Jelly, but then his successor, the almost mayor, Abe Beam, made it even worse, and it wound up $124 million that was spent. $124 million that was spent to renovate Yankee Stadium.
Oh my God!
As a matter of fact, the Yankees in the year 1974-75 played in Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
And then in '76 they went back to the refurbished Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And yes, you're absolutely right. There was a deal made, and that was to. But in all fairness to Steinbrenner, in all fairness to him, let me say this: the lease does expire the year 2000. So I don't believe we should hold anybody responsible, no matter what sweet a deal we gave him. Hold him responsible beyond the terms of the lease. And that's number one. Number two, who in his right mind, and I know when you're a fan, that's short of fanatic, so that means anybody who goes to the stadium is not in his right mind, but who in his right mind would want to subject himself to the dangers of losing his purse, his life, his limb, and go up to Yankee Stadium?
In that parking lot up there, I hear all kinds of horror stories going on.
So what Steinbrenner is saying is, hey, look, the Bronx is a jungle. The Bronx is not safe.
Right.
And people don't want to go. Here they have a winning team that probably win the whole Eastern Division thing, and maybe even the pennant, maybe even the world. Here they have a winning team, and they're not drawing like they would if Yankee Stadium were safe. And there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
So although I'm not a big Steinbrenner supporter, I have to say I don't blame him.
Yes, I agree, Bob. Thank you. Okay.
All right, this portion brought to you now by NASDAQ.
They create post off the stands and talks underway to find a buyer. New York Governor Mario Cuomo is doing what he can to help. He says it's important to keep the Post printing, no matter what they've said about him over the years.
Hey,
the fact that the Post disagrees with me is totally irrelevant. It is an historic newspaper, the longest continuously published paper in the history of the United States of America.
You really believe
it is another voice.
If it's in the news, you'll hear about it on Talk
voice,
Radio 77 WABC.
What if he'd say the same thing about hey, Spacci? Anyway, let's get to our newsbreaker line on WABC. I don't know if that was Jay or the real McCoy. It's hard to tell. At the other end of the newsbreaker line, Janet Marshall, or Parshall, 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 of Concerned Women of America, the organization leading the opposition against the nomination of Dr. Jocelyn Elders to be the to have the office of Surgeon General. Dr. Elders, by the way, was director of the Arkansas Health Department under Slick Willie. And is it true, Ms. Parshall, that she's supposed to be a good friend of Madame Hillary?
Tell me, Bob, who in that country or in that White House now isn't a good friend of Bill and Hillary's?
Well, that's true. You have to be Hillary approved, otherwise you don't get the nomination.
That's right.
But there are other reasons you have for opposing Jocelyn Elders to be the U.S. Surgeon General, and I'd like to know what they are.
Well, you know, when we look back at the tenure that Antonio Novello had and Dr. Koop had, we can look at the fact that they were real interested in public policy and they were interested in public health, and that public health always superseded their political activities. Not so with Dr. Elders. This woman is 100% political first, and she's public policy and physician second. She has some rather radical ideas on what she wants to do for American public health. And when she was asked recently by Faye Waddleton, the former president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, what she wanted her banner to be as she marched into the office, Dr. Elders responded that she wanted every child in America to be a planned and wanted child. Now, Bob, that's one step farther than even Planned Parenthood has said for decades. They used to say every child a wanted child, but Dr. Elders goes farther and says every child a planned and wanted child. And then in the McNeil-Lehrer report, she throws out a figure that she can't substantiate, but she uses it all the time. She says 60% of all the children in America are, in fact, unplanned. Now, Bob, don't even look at the children for a while. Let's just look at the adults. And let's look at the adults that are happily married and have had kids. How many people out there do you think were unplanned but wanted?
Well, of course, the selection of Jocelyn Elders is considered, I hate to use the term, but right now there's no way to avoid it, politically correct. And one of the reasons she's considered to be, quote, politically correct is the fact that she is a black woman. So this seems to, there seems to be a double standard that you can say these ridiculous things and no one calls you to task.
Well, I think what we have to do is decide how we're going to frame the issue. And in Dr. Elders' case, it has absolutely nothing to do with race and has nothing to do with gender and has everything to do with quality control. Before she took over the head of the Arkansas Department of Health, Arkansas rang out in 4th place with the highest teenage pregnancy rate in the country. After she took over the job, she led the charge and took Arkansas to 2nd place in the country with the highest teenage pregnancy rate. We cannot afford to let Dr. Elders do to the United States what she did to Arkansas.
All right. Now, I understand that Dr. Elders advocates sex ed.